Good afternoon. It's Search Warrant. I'm here today, and our fearless leader, John Snedden, is taking care of a couple of personal issues. The former NCIS special agent. Our other fearless leader is Greg, another NCIS special agent. He's out practicing his craft of shooting all over the place. But fear not, we have someone who's going to pick up the slack. And I'm sure you know he's going to pick up the slack. So that's what's going to happen. And we're going to talk about the most pressing issues that conservatives seem to be scared to confront about this, which is the Pope situation, the Swalwell situation, the illegal immigrant situation. And if we have more time, we'll talk about other situations, mainly how crazy me and this next guy is. The next guy, I'm sure I didn't really need to tell you who he is. You already know who's coming up. It's Glenn Fogarty.
Hey.
Hey, Glenn.
Your friendly neighborhood nutcase, right?
Oh, man, well, I don't know what's going to happen with us two running this show today, but
Looney Tunes, that's what.
Yeah, and there you go, Looney Tunes. So
my opinion still stands, and I think where this all started or stemmed from is Leo would be what we would consider a rhino, somebody who's played it up that he's perfect for the job, and he's going to do everything that your religion or your constituents would want. And then the minute he gets into office, he lets loose and does completely the opposite, with egg on our face, basically, because, we believed him. We had faith in him. And now he's been nothing but a big letdown and turned into another political tool for the liberals of the world to, go against Trump. And when I first heard that he was from Chicago, that right there tells me that's one of the most insane communist strongholds in this country. The only thing worse would have probably been San Francisco. So that's, besides those two, if he was from New York, maybe. But I've lost hope, and this guy, he looks like he's going to be 2.0 with steroids from the previous Pope. So you can expect, if the first Pope was allowing trannies to come in there, which already violates the Bible, the next stage would be allowing them to put on their shows. I'm sure we'll have drag queen shows and everything else being played in, the Sistine Chapel by the time this guy drops dead. So, but he was, as opposed to the first one, what, as far as I was concerned, was installed. Who didn't properly follow the process or whatever. This guy, he did. But I think based on everything that I've been seeing, it's the same crap, and we're going to be suffering for it.
Well, what I saw, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, obviously I haven't been in the Vatican.
Right.
Supposedly he's allowing Muslim prayer rugs in the Vatican now. He just went to Africa, and the first place he went to was a Muslim mosque.
Wow.
Hasn't visited any of the Christian places.
Right.
And what troubled me, you had a chance to put a black conservative Pope in there. You had a chance to go with Robert Sarah, who was going to take the church back to where it needed to be after Francis.
Right.
And they chose not to do that. And everyone knew something was up, but no one's going to say something was up because everyone was shocked that they were that they picked an American Pope.
Right.
And even his brother was shocked that, they picked him. So, and then you have these cardinals now out there slamming Trump. And you also had the Pope meet with David Axelrod last week before all of this stuff happened. So now you have the media working with this, another TDS type syndrome, because you want to play the Pope victim now that, Trump is coming after the Pope, and have all these Catholics scream all these things that is sacrilegious, is blasphemy, is this, is that, is this, is that, because of what Trump said. And what I believe, and that's why I played the clip in the beginning, that we talked about this a month ago, and it was happening 7 or 8 months prior to that, almost after he became Pope. And so Donald Trump is no dummy. He has to get your attention as to what this guy is doing. You know, you want to talk about false prophets and things of that nature. Now he's wearing the Pope's clothing. And I hate to speak like this, but it has to be said. And I believe Trump had to say it the way he said it to get your attention. This guy's over in Africa right now. He has not talked about the slaughter of the Christians in Africa, in Nigeria.
That's 100% correct.
He has not talked about the transgender crimes that are being committed against children all throughout the world, but in particular, this country. He hasn't talked about the scourge of drug-related fentanyl deaths in this country that Trump has stopped. He has not talked about homosexuality. You don't know whether this Pope is pro-abortion. He should be pro-life, but you don't know because the other one was all over the place. So you haven't heard any of these things. All you hear is him talking about all of a sudden Iran or talking about illegal immigration. We're going to get into illegal immigration a little later on. But you haven't heard him bring up any of these things, and everybody's running around like their hair on fire because Trump spoke out against this political activist who's portraying himself to be the Pope. And no one wants to hear that. But Trump said, listen, I have to get your attention. So if I have to send out an AI-generated image that make you guys, that's what art is. Art is in the eye of the beholder. And that's what I'm saying. This Trump is not dumb. He can tell you, hey, I thought it was a nurse or a healer, and you can look at him being Jesus Christ. Whatever. A discussion is going to be had. And these people don't want to sit back and realize what's going on. What I did before I go back to you, I Googled, speaking of Nigeria and the Christians being slaughtered, I Googled the same exact thing. The only thing I changed was one was President Trump, and the other one was Pope Leo, and what was their comments regarding Christians being slaughtered. And anyone out there, you can Google this for yourself, because that's all I did, and I just took up two. Here's the first one. This was Pope Leo when I asked what was his comments regarding the Christians being massacred in Africa. And this is, I guess this is the Vatican's official site. It goes, Pope Leo the 14th on Nigeria. Christians and Muslims have been slaughtered. That's him. Now, the same thing is what happened. All I did was insert President Trump. Trump warns Nigeria about thousands of Christians being slaughtered. Now, I had to go on DuckDuckGo to do this because I didn't trust. I didn't trust the response, the slanted response that I would have got from Google. So I went on DuckDuckGo, and this is the same exact thing. One is the Pope, one is Trump. So when you talk about all this, oh, I want peace throughout the world, and all these people trying to, you know, conflate this thing, saying, well, no Pope is against war. Well, Trump has stopped 8, 9 wars, you know, and I believe this is going to be another one. Have you heard Pope Leo come out and say anything about all the wars that Trump has stopped? Trump says it all the time. All I want is peace. I want peace. And as far as Russia and Ukraine, I want the deaths to stop. What does Leo say? I'm gonna get off the soapbox, Greg. Glenn, as you know I can, and I'm gonna let you respond to some of this.
Well, it all depends on their narrative of the moment, flavor of the moment, like some of the things that you were mentioning. Google doesn't want you to know the truth. They'll always slant the news. I haven't used Google in 20 years because they were slanted back then and they've just gotten worse. Leo will only come out, just like a typical liberal, of flavor of the moment, TDS reaction to whatever it is that's going on. So, of course, he's not going to talk about anything that Trump said was a success. So in his mind, well, okay, let's stop talking about Ukraine. And since he's at war with Iran, let's try to make Trump look bad because he's at war with Iran. Then you're saying he's doing things like putting Muslim rugs in the Vatican now. Okay, a complete and utter violation. I mean, we had wars over this. The Ottoman Turks.
1,400 years about, right? Or something in that
Right.
neighborhood.
That's right. I mean, could you imagine if we were to ask to put a cross in a mosque? They'd burn us to the ground before we even got through the doors. Okay, so this is worse than Chamberlain appeasing Hitler, and he's trying to ram all sorts of things and demand that we accept it. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. Just make whatever it is of the moment look, make Trump look bad. So, AI generated image. Now let's jump on the bandwagon. Trump thinks he's Jesus Christ because AI generated him in a robe of that time period, which is the way the clothing was, and that he's a healer. Okay? And he is technically, I wouldn't say divine, but he is a very powerful leader that is healing the world. Because how many millions and millions of people have been slaughtered by the Iranians? They killed 40,000 of their own people just because they were pissed off. Then they were losing the war.
That's the count they want us to know. It's probably double, but go ahead.
I agree. It's probably like 300 to 400,000. And then they're just never going to stop, no matter what. So Leo, what he's doing is he's exposing himself to being a part of this. And remember, like, okay, for when the whole Ukraine war broke out, they were all over the bandwagon. I stand with Ukraine. Okay, well, no, guess what? I sat down with them. Okay, I don't really give a shit. It's not my fight. How dare you? You condone, you must be a Russian asset. You condone the slaughtering of Ukrainians and so on and so forth. You must beg for forgiveness. Kneel down now and say you're sorry. Whatever. No, go fuck yourselves. Okay. Oh, excuse my language. Sorry. But the point being, I have to be careful now because I've been told we have to watch our language. But
we'll apologize. Anna, he's sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So now that we passed Ukraine and now we're fighting for. Then it was Gaza for a while. So they all started putting those toilet papers on their head, going, Gaza, Gaza, Gaza. Everybody forgot Ukraine. And now we're at war with Iran and hands off Iran. Okay, well, look, Iran's always been a chicken piece of crap wimp of a country. I mean, they named themselves after their action. Iran. Did you fight? No, Iran. So that we've always looked at them as wimps. And now all of a sudden Pope Leo is like, oh, this is horrible what you're doing to Iran and what you're doing to the Islamic people. How about you address the fact that what you were saying earlier, he's never addressed homosexuality, birth control, the fentanyl drugs. Trump has reduced it 98.6% for that influx. How many kids' lives or even regular people's lives have been saved because there was no more drugs left? And I noticed it the other day. I was down in Atlantic City, and I only saw one fentanyl addict doing his dance on the sidewalk. Prior to that, if I'd been there, excuse me, I had a cold 3 years ago, there was at least 10 of them. They were having, a disco going on the sidewalk, but they had no idea that each other was there. They were dancing with something.
Exactly. But you never hear any, anyone. You haven't heard the Pope say a peep about that. Oh, I'm talking about all these Catholics coming out here, all these conservatives, all these people. And listen, me personally, I believe God turned Trump's head that day.
Yeah.
God sends the message to you through a myriad of ways. You could say right now, me and you are here, because God is sending what, whether it's his message or not, I don't know, but in my opinion, God wants me to deliver a message to these people. How many people going to listen to it? I don't know. Maybe it's two. Maybe they're going to tell two. It'll be like that Pearl commercial. I don't know. But the bottom line is these people, that's why we can't get nowhere. And we're going to talk about Swalwell in a little bit. You know, the Pope talked about, and I'm talking about Republicans, Democrats, Popes, whoever.
Right.
If these allegations against this guy are true, they've been raping our babies in Congress, and they all knew about it, or allegedly. Let's use the word allegedly. So the same way you don't want to swear, let's use allegedly.
Oh, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that I've been.
I know. You know, it was the same thing. I don't want to say, hey, he made this a fact. But when you make a slush fund of our tax dollars for that sole purpose, and none of these people on either side of the aisle said anything, then that means this is prevalent. And when when you do it in a way with our tax dollars, that they have to have NDAs so that the American people can't know that you are allegedly committing criminal acts against our babies, forcing them to sign an NDA so you don't get caught as you pay them, not with your money, but with our tax dollars. Now, who at what point came up? What bill was that in? You know, they signed all these bills in the middle of the night. What was the I Can Sexually Assault My Intern Act? Where's that bill at? You had to hide it in another way because you couldn't write I want to pass the I Can Sexually Assault My Intern Act, who's coming here because she's 18 years old and trying to get in a poli-sci major. You know? So, you know, where's Pope Leo speaking out about that?
It don't fit his narrative.
Where's he speaking out the alleged sexual activities that was going on in the Catholic Church?
Right.
I've heard not a peep. But I'm sorry. Let me jump back down off this box again, Glenn. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, don't be sorry. I'm agreeing with you. I mean, you're on a roll and you're right. But the church, remember when their scandal was going on about all the, you know, raping the little boys and stuff like that? They tried their best to hush that up and quiet it. And but eventually they were forced to have to speak out and admit it. And in the case of what's going on with Leo, he's actually doing the exact same thing. He's not going to, you know, talk about what's going on with his fellow Democrats. You know, oh God, no, I can't speak a word about that. Nancy must have her, you know, playtime with her little boy, and Swalwell must be out there jumping the little girls. You know, otherwise they won't be. Their minds won't be right, and they won't be able to pass our bills to destroy the earth, because that's all they're really doing. I mean, it just defies common sense, everything that Democrats stand for and approve, and they're lock and step together with, we're all in agreement. Yes, we have a slush fund, but we'll never admit it. Yes, we have NDAs, we'll never admit it. We'll always find creative ways to hide it in there to make sure that we're protected by the law and that the justice system is two-tiered. So even if we do get caught, we'll get a slap on the wrist. Okay. Little embarrassment, and then I'll be right back in the news 6 months later, you know, back to my old shenanigans. It's a cycle that just needs to be stopped. And now when you're now dragging in the international community into this with the Vatican, now it becomes more of a global problem, and it's more hamperings to Trump. How much productivity is wasted on this crap, with having to deal with lawsuits, hearings, evidentiary, investigations, whatever else goes on with the Justice Department. Millions of dollars that could have been used for, I don't know, something like that's productive. School lunches, like replacing Michael Robinson. I'm sorry, Michelle Obama's lunch program, you know, where the food was rotting and the kids were puking. Oh, no, we can't. We got to spend the money more on, you know, court cases to make more lawyers rich. And then some of that side pocket money going on the side for the legislators to make sure we do another stupid law to perpetuate this. Now the Vatican's involved. So that's where we're at.
Like you said, it is a global type thing. I mean, and talk about the lawsuits. Trump is not spending one dime of taxpayer money to make the White House better and to make, but what do you got to do? A lawsuit. So I had to slow him down just so you can say that he was right. Look at Hungary. Hungary is one of the last bastions where you can sit back and say, well, maybe they got it right over there for a little bit because they got rid of this cancer, George Soros, but he may be wanting to go home. So now he's trying to buy that country to destroy that country out. And maybe the guy who used to be on Orban's team is no longer on Orban's team. And the thing, and you can say it, Tucker, Marjorie, the list goes on and on. Just because they was on your team, they could have been a Cowan. They could have been an eavesdropper. I don't know. So when you sit back and talk, and you talk about that slush fund. Yeah, they did it in the church with the little boys, and now they got a slush fund in government. And then what both of them do, they give themselves, and that's where we got to have a transparent law. Why do you make a law? And when did it come about where you guys get this immunity for all of your stuff? You can do all your little actions, but you can't touch me. It's my ball.
Right.
I'm doing everything wrong, but I can always take my ball and go home, and there's nothing you can do about it because I'm a congressman, because I'm a judge, because I'm this, because I'm a pope, because I'm a cardinal. No, enough is enough. They've harming our children. Let's touch on Swalwell right now, because if these allegations are true by this young lady, she said that she was raped, and there was another lady on TV today around 12:30 who also said, and she was a friend of Swalwell's, who said that she was raped. But let's look at the allegations so people know, because they're not putting this out there. They want to be negative about Trump. They don't want to talk about your congressman who was running for governor raping a little girl.
Right.
Closed. We went to another. I went to the bathroom, and I don't remember anything after that.
You don't remember anything?
I remember the next day. I can see flashes of that evening, of him on top of me pushing him off, him grabbing me. It was a lot more aggressive. It was aggressive.
Did you say no?
Yes, I said no. In my flash that I can recall, I was pushing him off of me saying no.
And what did he do?
He didn't stop.
He didn't stop. And you woke up the next morning?
I woke up the next morning naked, alone in his hotel room. I, for a moment, didn't even know I was in his hotel room. That's how intoxicated I was. And I called my mom, the only person I could think that could help me.
Her mother confirmed her account in an interview with CNN. CNN also reviewed screenshots of texts she sent to a friend, saying she was, quote, sexually assaulted by Eric. She also shared this note from a physician's assistant, calling her a, quote, survivor, after she went to get tested for STDs 1 week later.
Why do you feel like it's so important to speak out now?
When I found out there were others who might have been impacted by Eric in different ways, I realized I couldn't be scared anymore, because that is how he keeps us quiet.
Glenn, take it away.
All right. Well, okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one. So try to go with both sides here. I mean, it's a well-known fact. I have no love for Eric Swalwell. I mean, the man is a piece of dog crap. He always was. He's ever since he was, banging around with Fang. That right there should be a red flag. He, violated our laws. He was a traitor to our country. Then he's self-righteous and thinks he's our savior, and he's got an ego that's bigger than the Hindenburg. Now, in her case, the question that arises for me is, first of all, he's now, as what we used to call it, and I don't know why we don't call it anymore, it's called date rape. Apparently, he got her drunk and then banged her. Okay. That went on a lot during the 90s. If you remember, like the ecstasy drugs
Yeah.
and stuff, dropping into girls'
Yes.
drinks. A lot of guys went to prison for that stuff. I remember there was a guy who got charged with that date rape, rich Upper East Side, New York City, the preppy killer or something like that. And he wound up killing the girl, strangling her during sex in Central Park. That if she didn't die, he would have probably just been charged with date rape. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But then it kind of died down. And now the Democrats have been doing this like crazy, raping their interns left and right. She didn't know she was even in his hotel room. Well, okay. Devil's advocate is all those hotel rooms all look the same. So it's hard to tell. So, all right, I'll give her credit on that. But then the question comes up of why am I coming out with now? And I heard from other people. Now I'm saying to myself, okay, you just timed this to maximize something out of it. Maybe she wants to get a lawsuit, and win something big from it. Because when he was low level, it didn't really matter. Now, we don't know when this happened, right? Did she even say the date?
She said it happened in 2024, I believe.
Okay, so that's almost
the first one happened in 2019. But to your point, I agree 100% with you. And I'm going to I can't stand the guy. I believe he's a traitor.
Right.
But we are in America.
Right.
So I'm going to make him innocent until proven guilty. And I'm not going to be a
100%.
hypocrite here as an investigator and just go blanket, say, I'm going to believe all women. No.
Right.
Because here's the thing. As an investigator, what I'm going to do, I'm going to investigate all of our allegations. And I want whoever is the assigned investigator to this case to do the same. And
That's correct.
if you find out, because I've done it in the past, if you find out that what she has alleged is not true and there's some other motive, whether it's maybe because the Democrats wanted Swalwell out and they figured, okay, we eat our own, or maybe this happened. I don't know. All I have right now, which is enough for me to start an investigation, is her being on CNN stating this. Now, we're going to talk to her mom. We're going to talk to whoever. If she gives us access to her medical records, we're going to do that because evidently she had a sex kit done, a rape kit done. Right. So we're going to do all that. I think that it should have been DNA. She got this by her. I don't know. But I'm going to look into all of those things. But to your point, Glenn, it should have been enough with Fang Fang. After Fang Fang, not only do you not have him in a courtroom or do a major investigation for treason, but you put him on the Judiciary Committee and you put him on the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
It doesn't, and that's typical of Democrats. If it defies common sense, they'll do it. So the man is already compromised by an enemy, and we damn well know that they're probably giving him money on the side, but because he's a liberal and he'll
Fang Fang get more than money. But go ahead.
I'm sure, but at the time he looked young. He was like in his 20s or whatever, right? And here he had a hot, Chinese chick, and she was probably fulfilling every fantasy, and he thought he was the BMOC. Okay, I get it, but at the same time, they were just draining him of all the information that they wanted. And then when it got exposed, she packed her crap up and bailed off to Beijing. And what did he do? He keeps going forward. He gets elevated and escalated to more positions and based on seniority. Now, here's one thing. You're telling me 2019, the first time this happened, okay, and we don't know how many times it happened, but I'm thinking, okay, he got her the first time, and then he probably talked her out of it, saying, look, I'm sorry, it just happened, blah, blah, blah. And maybe she forgave him, okay? And then now we fast forward to 2024, and then he's like, you know what? We had such a great time. Let's do it again. She probably said no. He's like, here, have some more drinks. She gets drunk, and he jumps on her again. Now she waits until 2 years later to suddenly turn around and say, oh, I think because I heard other people, I should come out about this. Maybe her career is already over as an intern, and now she's just looking for a payday on that. So I'm going to give him, as you said, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, the benefit of the doubt. But now you've got video. You've got, corroborating witnesses. You've got some evidence and all the circumstances. And the number one thing here is we have to remember that Swalwell loves to say the line that nobody is above the law.
Yes.
That I want to make sure sticks with him hard. And I can't wait to see him in black and white stripes in the chain gang.
Well, he actually made a comment during the Kavanaugh things that once you got to like one, if you had one runoff, no problem. Once you got to 2, 3, 4 saying the same thing, then something must be there. You must be the most unluckiest guy in the world. No, that's the way the swamp works. If these women, maybe these reports was out there in the swamp already knew, and they said now's the time to activate them. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't happen. Like I said, as an investigator, I got to keep that open mind.
Right.
And I'm going to look for all the factual data that I can find one way or the other, and then we go from there.
Right.
But he just said that with Kavanaugh 7 years ago. Now, is he the most unluckiest guy? This girl said in 2019, she might have been drugged and drunk in 2019 and 2024. You had a girl on TV today, said she was a friend, and she thought he's talking to you a date rape point, that he dropped something in the drink because she only had one glass of wine. You had 3 other girls on this other channel saying this. When the swamp wants to get you, because all of y'all are corrupt, they get you. There was a meeting. They told you to do something or not to do something, and you did or didn't do something. And in less than 7 days, you're gone. Now,
he's collapsed very fast.
Yeah, how far is the swamp willing to take it? Because to me, I'm anxious to see if they're willing to put him in jail. Because
I'm
if
hoping
they
they
put him
do,
in
because
jail,
he should be in jail for multiple reasons.
Right, but does he start singing, or does he get Epsteined, or whatever the case may be?
Well, I don't usually wish death upon people, but since I have zero love for Democrats and they wish death upon me, I can't say it. But F you very much, Eric Swalwell. If you get Epstein, I am not shedding a tear. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly. And where's the fathers at? We talk about the Pope, we talk about the families. The last Pope when he was here in Philadelphia, I think it was called the World Families Tour or something to that effect in 2016 or so, 2015, 2016, I forget the exact year, but somewhere right around there.
Right.
No, the church, that's all this Pope can speak about? Have you heard him speak about families?
Nope.
You know what I mean? The man and the woman.
He's barely in the news. He only came out in the news, really, to just trash Trump.
Right.
That's it.
He trashed Trump on Easter. He trashed Trump on Palm Sunday. He trashed Trump last year. So when he became Pope, he trashed Trump. When he was a cardinal in Chicago, did he talk about all the African Americans, Black Americans, Browns? I'm only saying all these little different terms because they use all these terms. Black, they get their point across because they want everybody in this bubble. Did he ever talk about the number of murders? They got a website regarding shootings in Chicago. People look it up. It's called Hey Jackass. They tell you if you got shot in the ass, if you got murdered, if you got shot in the leg, everything. It's called Hey Jackass. But I didn't hear Robert Prevost talk about the crime rate in Chicago when he was there.
Right.
Why wasn't he so outspoken then? I didn't even hear about Robert Prevost until he became Pope Leo XIV.
Correct. Me neither. He came out of nowhere, out of a Democrat stronghold, which has a whack job of a governor in that state. The guy who keeps eating everybody until he's ready to explode. But he has no idea about the gun violence going on. And then what about the mayor there? That what the hell is his name?
Brandon Johnson. How about before him, Lori Lightfoot?
Yeah. Oh, Lightfoot. Oh my God, she was from Beetlejuice. She was insane, that woman. But he's even worse, I think, than her. And that's kind of like the progression we're seeing with every time. What they do is I'm seeing a pattern here. It's just like we talked about with the first Pope. He didn't start off right away that way. It was creeping in little things like allowing birth control or condoning homosexuality, and then let it drag on for a couple of years, let people forget about it. Now he'll creep something else in. And then he finally drops dead. And now we have the next guy in who basically comes out the gate right away and says, oh, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And like I said, don't be surprised when you start getting drag shows going on in the Sistine Chapel. Well, in the case of that mayor, you went from Lightfoot, who did her creeping that way, and now you got Brandon in there, who basically came out the gate. I'm going to turn this into a communist state. Now we're up to New York doing it, with Mammy Dammy, and
Oh my,
it's
I'm
collapsing.
sorry about New York, but I think New York may have California beat. It's hard, but I mean,
but they deserve it.
They are. I mean, you literally in September, it's going to be the 25th anniversary of 9/11.
That's right.
And on July the 4th, a couple of months before, you're going to have the 250th anniversary for a country that was built on Christian values.
Right.
And you just had a mayor in New York say, hey, you guys can go scream. They just had a bunch of arrests out there. Scream Free Palestine, Death to America, all this other stuff. You can do all that all day long. But when it comes to celebrating the birthday, the 250th birthday, I'm banning all large gatherings. And he calls himself a socialist mayor. He's letting you know. So, Glenn, I know you're from there.
Right.
Give me a plus about New York right now. I mean, I can't give you a plus about most Democratic cities or Democrat cities, not Democratic.
Right.
What's the plus on New York right now? Why would I move to New York?
1,000% -0. Okay? There is no pluses to that dump. It is self-inflicted wounds. They deserve everything that they voted for. As I said, I was born there. I was raised there. I defected from there. And now, sadly, the state I defected to is going the same course. But it's buying me some time. But there is nothing about New York that is a positive in any way, shape, or form. And I talk to people all over the world that want to visit our country. I tell them there are certain cities to avoid. Number one, New York. But I want to go. Okay, go in real quick. Don't spend a dime. Just go look at the pretty lights down in Times Square and then get out. Maybe go visit the Statue of Liberty and get out. Because there's no reason to be there. It smells like weed. It smells like crap. The people, nobody bathes. So you got body odors, sweat, weed. That's just the smells. So, why don't you go someplace nice, like a nice field with flowers that smell of roses? And that's what I try to tell them. Get out of that area. Go to Tennessee. Go hang out with this guy named Greg, and while you're smelling the roses, he'll teach you how to open up a few rounds on a .30 caliber, but no blue city. I mean, Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Austin. Even Miami. I was just recently down in Miami. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of it. Now, I don't know what's wrong with some people where they think that, oh, I'm rich. Let me spend $30 million on this stupid condo in a building because I overlooked the bay. But what's going on behind the bay is packs of kids on electric bikes doing wheelies in an intersection, doing what I call the Harlem Shuffle. Okay. And what that is they will stand on the corner while the light is, light's red. When the light turns green for the car, they do the Harlem Shuffle. And then they look like Dave Chappelle dressed like a crackhead. And they just kind of getting jiggly with it. And they go real slow. Meanwhile, the light's green. Now, if you run them over, you go to prison. You honk your horn, you got a pack of kids jumping on your car. So you have to decide, is it worth it? Or do you wait till they pass? Well, they're doing that in Miami now. And I witnessed it. And, and that's what you get in a Democrat city. So what you tell me, can I find a positive in any of this that I've told you?
No. Well, here's the problem too, Glenn. We talked about New York. But here's the thing. You know, when you had Giuliani, Bloomberg, even though he's a Democrat, it was fine. You talk about them move, it's quasi. It really was Julie. But and look what they did to him. They tried to destroy him, say they don't really care. But you say, oh, everyone moves, whether it's Austin, whether it's Jersey, whatever. But they take that ideology with
That's
them.
it. Yep.
And they eventually screw that area up. Oh, let's go to Florida. Well, I'm going to screw up Miami. You know, I'm
Right.
going to screw up Fort Lauderdale. You just had, which I'm going to show you in a minute, Fort Myers, where the incident took place.
That's correct.
So when you sit back and you talk about this now, but they make you crazy. And that's the problem I have with the Republican Party, you know.
Right.
And I'm going to get into this, but you know Renee Good's name. You know Alex Preddy's name. But
Right.
you don't know, they're not on that darn steps of Capitol with Lakin and Jocelyn
Right.
and Rachel,
Right.
you know, or I think it's Arina, the girl on the train. The point I'm trying to make to you is
Arena.
Arena.
Yeah,
I wanted to pronounce it right.
And that was in a red state, but a blue city called Charlotte.
Blue City,
Right.
City, Georgia train. It was, you know, but but that's what they do. That's another mess they do. They do like, well, most of the crime is done when it is a Republican governor or a red governor. They say, oh, this place, no. But when you say Texas, well, yeah, look at Austin. Austin's
Right.
where the crime's at. You know, Houston's where the crime's at. You know,
Right.
it's not. You know, but when you get onto your point, look at Glenn Youngkin. Now, see, the
Right.
problem I have,
That I was
you
just going
know,
to say, look at that state as to your example. Virginia is
yes,
exactly that.
Glenn Youngkin left that place with a surplus,
Right.
but I knew there was a problem. You know, you had a transgender rape this guy's daughter in a bathroom.
Right.
He gets locked up and assaulted and thrown out because he wanted to bring it to the out, shed some sunlight on what's going on there.
Right.
Glenn Youngkin does all this, and what do? You go to Spamberger. Now
Right.
you got illegal immigrants raping our little girls and killing them and everything else. You're getting taxed out the yin yang.
Right.
But look how fast they forget. How do you go back to that? How do you go back to a party where the guy was either in a Klan's outfit or blackface before Youngkin?
Right.
I don't know which racist I was. I was either in blackface or the Klan outfit. I'm one of them, but I can't
It's
remember which
because
one.
look, it's a fact. I've always stated this. Democrats are retards. They are the
Yes.
most uneducated, ignorant, racist, jealous, self-righteous, armchair experts of nothing. Okay? And they'll throw a temper tantrum if they don't get their way. So you're right though. They migrate. They're like gypsies. Okay? They're like the Tasmanian devil in New York City. They tear it up, destroy it. Now they can't live in it anymore. I had a friend that I grew up with like that. He became a Democrat and moved to San Francisco. When he told me that he can't take it anymore and he wants to move to Texas, I told him, you shut the hell up and don't move because that's what you voted for. That's what you created. We don't talk anymore. Okay. And it's a pattern. So what did they do in Virginia? Was exactly that. They've now destroyed New York. They've destroyed all the other cities. And what they always will do is target urban areas. Okay. So they've already flooded Alexandria. I mean, you cannot get any freakier and gayer and fruity pebble than Alexandria, Virginia, other than Greenwich Village in Manhattan. Okay. So now you put a governor in there because, and this is part of what I was talking about in another episode, was how Democrats target urban sections of a state or a city, because when you have voting, okay, and you're in a rural area, this acre is one family, that acre is another family, that acre is another family, and it goes across in the area. So for, let's say, 20 square miles, you might have about 2,000 voters. But if you go into like Jersey City, well, in one block, you have about 2,000 voters in one building. because it's vertical. So that's what they
Mhm.
did. The Democrats were smart like that, and they went to Alexandria, and now Fairfax County is about as libtarded as Boston and Massachusetts. Oh, forget it. Those freaks, which I renamed that
Mhm.
to Massafreakets. They're just messed up in the head. There really is. It defies me. Look at their mayor, that little Chinese chick. She invites
Yes.
everybody to Thanksgiving, and violates laws, wants to fight ICE, and so on and so forth. It just does not go with common sense. And there's some people like such as me in my state. This state is about 50-50, okay? But all the urban areas is blue, and we hate them. I honestly will not go to certain towns like Red Bank, New Jersey. I will never spend a dime in that piece of crap town. Why? Because they're all blue libtards, and they hang out on the bridge going, "No King's Day," and they try to stop traffic. But the people like me don't give a crap, and we keep driving through them, and we
Mhm.
throw garbage at them, and we spit on them like they deserve. Because if you don't like it, I ask them, you don't like it? Move to North Korea. If you love communism so much, go. But you won't because you're a coward. And that's
Right.
what they are. They're 100%
Gays for
cowards.
this and all that. Go to that country.
Yeah,
You will be killed immediately.
right.
You will be
Go to
killed.
Gaza.
Yes. Go to Gaza. Gays for Palestine, whatever it is.
Right.
But when you sit back and talk about how all this stuff has changed
Yeah.
with the migrating, going vertical, they forced in all these illegal immigrants who went vertical, and that's why they don't want to say that. But my problem still goes back to the Republicans, because you brought up Massachusetts. What happened? You had the Texas governor
Mm-hmm.
send those illegal migrants to Martha's Vineyard,
No, that was Florida's
and those
governor. DeSantis sent them.
oh, DeSantis did. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's
DeSantis
all right. Just
sent
wanted to
them. I
clarify.
thought it was Greg, but okay, Ron did it. Okay, I stand corrected. But he sends them to Martha's Vineyard to all these liberals who's chanting, just like these pro gays for Palestine. All these people chanting that they need this illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, those same liberals was at the bus stop, those people on the back, get the hell out of here. Because they didn't want their daughters raped.
Oh, they
They
flat
didn't
out
want
said
their
it to their
daughters
face. They
murdered.
said, "You can't stay here. You cannot
Yes,
stay here." And they were asking, "But why? You have lots of land here, lots of big house. We
yes,
could live here." No, you can't stay here. Yeah.
exactly. But where was the Republicans at? Why did they keep that? They sent them to the Naval Observatory, to Kamala's house. And all that's wrong. But if you send them to my neighborhood where they kill my daughter, where they kill Rachel Lakin and them, that's cool. They're
Yeah.
not important.
Right.
Now, the segue to that is I got to put this up first,
Okay.
because what I'm about to show
Yeah.
people is
It's
very
brutal.
graphic, but it needs to be shown because it's not being shown. And
Right.
what it shows is some third world piece of crap
Mm-hmm.
showing the type of people that these Democrats and everyone else is saying, ICE out, dox the ICE agents. You got the DHS shut down for ICE funding. Well, this is the type of person. So you don't have Lakin on video. You don't have Rachel on video. And when you do get something like this on video, they're not
Yep.
going to show it. So if you have little children, the reason I went off beforehand, if you have little children who's going to watch this video, or someone who can't handle a graphic situation, then walk away from the show right now, turn your head, because this is
Or cover your eyes
graphic.
because you're not going to be able to unsee this.
Right. But this is what's going on, and this is what the Democrats and the media do not want you to know.
But I want to reiterate, you should watch it, whether it bothers you or not. Forget, you've been warned. It's graphic, and you should see it for the simple purpose that you don't want this to happen to you, or your family, and you should show it to your friends and let them see it to prevent it.
Yes, because if you remember, I believe it was Lincoln. Her head was beat in, or whatever the case may be, and who knows what else happened with Rachel. And you know, we don't know their names. They want you to tell us. They want to tell you about Alex Preddy and Renee Good and George Floyd. Well, let me tell you something. The difference between those people, this video I'm about to show you, Rachel, Lakin, DeClara, and everyone else, they were criminals. They were engaged in criminal activity at the time of their death. None of these people, not one, when they were killed by this illegal scum, was engaged in a criminal activity. So let that sink in. These people, but not George Floyd, he was just a criminal who likes to put guns in pregnant people's stomach. But these people want to protect the type of people that does this. Once again, viewer discretion is very much advised.
If you need a steel garage in Montana, Florida, you can deal locally with Eversafe Building. Our South Florida offices are based in Palm Beach County. All our crews are Florida-based, insured, and licensed with the state. See what a local.
Wow.
So there you go. Now, you know, you mentioned the names of other people earlier. Do you know that? Now, I can't confirm or deny it, but I can suspect it, that like Lake and Riley and all of them, they all lived in Democrat areas. Okay? There's a high probability that they voted Democrat. And then the people allowed these illegal aliens in. Now they're dead. Okay? That is a result of your voting. So if anybody I'm not going to say that what happened to this woman is horrible, but let's just say hypothetically she voted Democrat. There's an example of what she voted for. Okay, so how can you sit there and feel bad when you're seeing these people that are, whether they're conned or truly retarded enough to vote to allow a guy like him into the country and want to open up your doors and coddle him and let him have his way, and then come up with an excuse that, oh, he just killed me because he was having a bad day. You know, it just defies common sense. And this is now becoming almost like an epidemic in the country. But what can I say?
Well, you're absolutely right, Glenn, because here's the problem. Most of those areas and most of the people, because we just talked about, they didn't allow them Martha's Vineyard. They flooded them into the neighborhoods, into those liberal democratic cities, those quote unquote sanctuary cities. Now, whether this young lady or whoever was misled, well, is that treason if she was American? We don't know her name. We don't know her name like anybody else, because they don't want you to see that. That's not in the media. And that's what the media is not showing you. So are these people being misled, misinformed? Is our media committing treasonous activities?
Right.
Are our politicians committing treasonous activities? You know, and when I say the media, and people may or may not get on me about this or whatever the case may be, because I really want her to be found, and I really want answers to this, because she deserves it. But do you remember during the Democratic debates when Savannah Guthrie asked all of the candidates who all raised their hand, including Joe Biden, would they support whatever for the illegal immigration? and they all raised their hand. Now, I don't know
Except
what
one,
happened to.
Tulsi Gabbard didn't.
Well, no, this was the. Well, yeah, she was a Democrat. Yeah, you're right. She did run
She
a
was,
Democratic
but
term.
she's the
Yes.
only one that didn't raise her
She
hand.
was the only one that didn't. And Biden looked around before he put his. They all looked around because they all got. It's just like all their votes. They all got to be on the same team. And Tulsi, that's why she's here now, because she's not on their team.
That's correct.
And the point I'm trying to make to you is this, because it's an important right. The Solicitor General just argued in front of the Supreme Court about this birthright citizenship crap. Well, let's look at this as an example. There's about 8 billion or so people in the world. Let's just say, let's just make it Noah's Ark for the world.
Right.
So there's 4 billion men, there's 4 billion women. They all come to America and go to Martha's Vineyard, stick around for 9 months, and have babies. All have babies. So now you have all these quote unquote American citizens who are here illegally. That's why the case is, and that's another reason how they just get over on black people. It was Americans who fought Americans in that Civil War. It wasn't other people. That's why it's subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Because you didn't have people coming over illegally, dropping the load and keeping the people, the load that they dropped here till they have a baby. That wasn't there. And that wasn't foresaw. You know, one of the few things that our founders didn't, or actually this came about after the founders. This wasn't foresaw. So for them to sit back and I don't understand what's going on with the Supreme Court. I don't know how they're going to rule. They keep saying 6-3, 5-4, but against America. You can't interpret the Constitution any other way to make that birthright citizenship argument for you're here illegally. You're subject to whatever illegal country you came from.
Of course.
That's the jurisdiction you're subjected to, not America. And so is your child. So hop back on that plane. But so are we going to only make it go from 8 billion to now 12 billion? How can we survive? So if you got a house and you say, I'm going to let, at some point, if you let everybody in your house, somebody going to have to wait outside.
Exactly. The point being is we're only a certain amount of land mass out of the entire world. Why must all of the world's populations leave their land masses to be in this one, rather than us convincing them to fix your own shit? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that word. Fix your own house, okay, and rebuild your land and do things. That's what colonization was about, okay? Colonization was okay. If we go back to like the 1500s and stuff, and all these kings and queens, they're all like, oh my God, you know, we need these resources like spices. You know, my fancy pants ass needs to have some special pepper. So they would hire a couple of guys to get in a boat, go sail around the ocean, and come back in a couple of years and go, hey, we found it. You know, well, crap, it's not enough. Go get more. Well, I can't. I've only got a limited amount of people. Well, find more people. And then that's when the Portuguese discovered along the coast of Niger and asked them, you know, hey, we got some stuff to trade. What do you got to trade? And they said, we got our people. You can have all our people. So he jumped on the bandwagon. They ran over to Brazil and milked the hell out of it. In fact, even that's where we didn't have, I think the coffee bean plant came from. And then it made its way to the Middle East and so on and so forth. So now we start with that. And people start, getting all of their stuff. But they said, you know what, we can make this go faster. If we go down to, like, say, the Congo, and we start building things like railroads, we could get it moving faster. And then they did the same in, like, the Caribbean, or here in the United States, and so on and so forth, where we started building roads and cities where we could actually process it before it even gets into the crates and then shipped across the ocean. And that's how it happened. And we were helping the people along the way. We had started building schools. We had infrastructures going on. Now, according to the liberals, that's a bad thing to do. Instead of, giving What was that phrase that says, if I give you a fish, you'll eat today, but you'll starve tomorrow. If I teach you how
Yes.
to fish, you won't ever starve to death.
Yes.
And we were going along with that plan, but then there was too much of wars that went on between the British, the Portuguese, the Spanish, and everything. And it kind of crumbled. And then we moved into imperialism. And then the world politics is where we're at today. And I've just jumped like 500 years. But the point being is, they could just fix their own crap instead of coming here and trying to make us change. And I must learn to speak Spanish? No, I only know a bunch of bad words in it. Like hijo de puta.
What's happening pretty soon? Are you going to have to learn how to speak Chinese?
I
Are you
already
going to have to
speak
learn
it
how to
only
speak
because
North
I
Korean?
went there. I learned Mandarin which I felt was the right thing to do. I'm not going to ask a Chinaman to sit there and say, speak English to me. Okay? I'm in your country. I should at least do my best. And I had a whole piece of paper with about 50 phrases on it. And yeah, my accent was pretty bad. And it took a few attempts at first. But now I'm so good, I can curse them out. But I don't use it here too much.
You know what's funny is a lot of times when Americans go to other countries, whether it's Europe or whatever the case may be, the first thing they do is get that little translator book.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let me know how to speak French, German, or whatever. What does this mean, or whatever? How do I order a cup of coffee, and whatever the case may be. You come here illegally, and now we have to adapt to you being here illegally. How does that make any sense?
Well, I refuse. And I think everybody else should. When you start speaking to me like in Spanish in a bodega, like they used to do in the Bronx, I started talking to them in German, and then I'd switch to Chinese. And they'd start calling me all sorts of shit like Loco Blanquito or something,
Mm-hmm.
And then I would reply to them in Chinese. They didn't
well,
like
that's
it.
that's the whole problem you have with this nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where does it end? I just saw a girl from Canada. We had the LGBTQ. First of all, it used to be LGBT.
Oh.
And no matter what it was whatever you guys decided to do behind closed doors, whatever. Who cares?
Right. Now it's an alphabet.
Then you start adding all these other letters. Well, I just had this lady or saw this lady in Canada. I forgot what she does.
Right.
She added about 5 more letters on the front end.
Yeah. Number 2 was added to the front end too. So we're getting
it's like a 2 and a T. And so I'm like, are you kidding me?
You're going to need a calculator and a dictionary by the time you get through knowing what the hell she's talking about.
Exactly. Meanwhile, these people don't know how to, they worry about all these letters. It almost looked like Roman numerals. There's so many of them.
Yeah, it does.
But some of these people you tell them they don't even know what a Roman numeral is because the schools aren't teaching them anything but how to chop off their penis or their breasts.
Right.
Unfortunately. And I haven't heard, segueing because we almost out of time here.
Right.
I haven't heard Pope Leo say anything about that.
Nope, not a word. And he won't.
So,
and by the way, if you just want to simplify it, do what I do. I mean, it pisses everybody off, but I really don't care. But when you start with that alphabet crap, I just call them faggots, dykes, and trannies. That's it. I just saved a whole lot of talking,
You know what's funny? I'm starting to watch old comedies. Good Times, All in the Family, The Jeffersons, even some other shows like NYPD Blue, some stuff from like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Right. And the stuff you just said was regular. Now if you use those type of words, I gotta say transgender, but I can't say other words. You're not going to force me for a made up word that don't exist, but I can't say a real word that I can tell you the definition of it. I can't tell you what the definition of a transgender is because there's no such thing in biology.
That's correct. And speaking about watching old stuff, Jake, I actually missed a movie in the 80s and I finally caught up to it. It was Jean-Claude Van Damme in a movie called Double Impact, where he had to play his twin brother that was separated because the parent. Okay, and the one that's the bad boy one, that's the more tough guy, is talking about the other one that's from California and lived in more of a fancy pants life. And he's like, okay, we're going to do it, but I still think you're a faggot.
You see? And I think that is the perfect
Right.
segue to end the show because me and Glenn are both twins, and today we perform Double Impact.
That's right.
Next week, we'll have our regular people back, and we won't run amok and show you graphic videos that we maybe you can get us banned off podcast world, whatever. But I think we covered ourselves by doing what we need to do. Anna, Glenn was great. He very much watched yourself. So I'm sure you're going to watch and you're going to critique how much he did and going to get on his back, but it's deserved.
Anything? I'll get the texts, and
yes.
And I'm probably going to be told I better shave and do my hair, but I tell you, it is like 90 in here. The temperature blew up. I was actually outside doing yard work, and it was the only chance I finally got because it's been cold, So if I look like a landscaper today, yeah, well, this is what happens when you.
Well, Glenn, I think that's the least of your worries. With your ceiling, I think people are going to think that you came on this show thinking you were Jesus Christ. So.
Oh, that's right. Do you know I did this? I did this myself 20 years ago, just because this is my office and it's a vaulted ceiling, and I like to feel like I'm outdoors. So I found that wallpaper and I actually wallpapered it. And I even got the speaker over there somewhere. Wait a minute, over there somewhere. I had 4 speakers in the ceiling that used to pick up the cop cars with their old radios, so I could hear who got pulled over.
Well, that's not what the liberals going to say. The liberals going to say Search Warrant had one of their hosts thinking he was Jesus up in the clouds. And now we're going to have to take down this episode of Search Warrant because they really don't want to show that graphic video that we showed. So they're going to, use another way. Glenn, I appreciate everything. You got anything to say before we close it out?
Yeah, I think we're good, man. And I loved every minute of it. So I'll just say, hi, Anna. Sorry for saying, faggots and trannies and dykes. So.
John, Greg, see you next week. Anna.
Yep, we miss you
Glenn
guys.
did very well. Okay, Glenn. Okay, guys, take care.
Thanks. Take care.